What's up, guys? Patrick from WP Builder Helper here, and today's video we are going to be testing out Oxygen and Bricks Builder. So for those of you who are unaware, or maybe you just don't know, Bricks is a new builder. I've talked about it a good bit on this channel, and Oxygen is another very popular builder that's been around for some time, and both of them are kind of touting each other. You've also got Zion and a couple of other ones like Live Canvas. They're kind of touting each other as the basically the developer's builder. And a lot of people have some very, very strong feelings towards each of these. Obviously, Bricks is the new builder on the block, and Oxygen's been more established, and they've been, coming out with updates pretty regularly and stuff like that. So I just wanted to jump in today and kind of talk about what I thought was some things that separate both of these and why you might pick one over the other for certain projects and everything like that. Right off the bat, I'm going to say, you're trying to compare two builders like this, and a bunch of people have said, how can you compare two builders, or how can you do that? You kind of can and you can't, because each builder's got different objectives for the type of audience that they're reaching. For instance, Bricks is brand new, and it unfortunately does not have all of the same things that Oxygen has, and so it puts it at a disadvantage right off the start. However, it does have a decent license for right now, although some people would argue that Oxygen's pricing points at this point is a little bit better, only because you get lifetime. There's nothing. You get all of this stuff that you normally do not get, and so to some people that's a lot better, because that's only $229 one-time payment, and Bricks is $149, and it gives you 1,000 websites, which I guess, as somebody pointed out before, technically, if you're not making money off of 1,000 websites, then you're doing something wrong. But there are a lot of people who like to build these type of deals for their own specialty projects. I know that I'm one of those people. I usually don't build for clients anymore unless it's somebody that, I particularly want to work with, something that I find interesting or whatever. So I'm not doing that type of thing. But, either way, I definitely think Oxygen has a leg up because they've got unlimited. And also, I like the way, Oxygen's one of the few that has done this. I don't know what you would call it. Like, if you just want the builder, it's $129 one-time fee. If you wanted WooCommerce, it's $169. If you wanted the Gutenberg block builder, I love the way they broke this out, where, if you want everything, it's like it's $229 one-time fee. That's pretty cool. I like the way that they add more functionality into it as it keeps going up. That's always been one of my favorite things about Oxygen. Their pricing, I think, is very fair, and I've always enjoyed their pricing. These guys are brand new, but I still like their pricing also, because for the most part, this is $100 cheaper than most other things, and they're saying they give you access to all this, and the WooCommerce builder is coming. So if you're comparing this to Oxygen, then technically, you're going to get WooCommerce for a cheaper price than what you would get for this. But you've got to wait for it to come out. So that's the other thing that's kind of that's interesting about Bricks. I'm going to get into the details of each of them, and we'll look at it. So let's start off with Oxygen. So I haven't looked at Oxygen in a while, but if you're not aware, Oxygen disables the theme, which is interesting. And it's something that it kind of shares almost with Bricks, because Bricks in some ways disables the theme too, but it doesn't do it the same way Oxygen does it. It's not the same thing at all. Bricks uses its own builder similar to Divi, which in some ways it's kind of the same thing. You're disabling the theme because you're having to use the Bricks theme in order to get the functionality of everything that's going on. So Bricks is not a plugin, it's a theme. So you install Bricks from this area, which is a little bit different than most people would expect, because most people install things from, this area. rather than here, which confuses some people, but that's just the way that they do it, which is fine. I mean, either way. Oxygen is, it uses a template library that I really like. This is something that Bricks has yet to really add to their builder. They do have templates that are in there, but they've yet to add full building templates. So just for right now, if you're wondering, you're not going to find full build templates. They do have full pages, but not like Oxygen, not like this, where you come in here and it's got like everything in it. So for instance, if we were to take a look at, let's say, the SaaS demo, you would get all of this. Like you get the features, the pricing, the about page, all of this. It's almost like, I think Elementor and Divi also do this too, but it's almost like an all-in-one, like just throw this on a website, boom, it's yours. And as a matter of fact, let's go and install it. It says SaaS 2 will be installed. And we'll just delete our current style sheets. We have to type in delete, confirm and install. And in a second, you will see after we've confirmed it, it's going to start creating this SaaS 2 install, which is something that I've always liked about Oxygen because it kind of, I didn't set the page correctly. Let's see, we should have 2 home pages. So yes, one of these are old, and I think it's this one. So let's trash this one. Let's go into tools real quick, or into settings. And I think it is in reading, I believe. Yes, static home page. And we'll set it to home and save the changes. Okay, so now you can see we've got the prototyping here, and it's got all of the same stuff that you'd come to expect from Oxygen. All the little hovers, all the style sheets, all the fonts, everything is already included in this, so it makes it a little bit easier for you to go back and kind of customize this. This is where Oxygen and Bricks start to differ quite a bit, because Bricks you kind of have to piecemeal right now. Granted, I'm sure that they've just released everything, so I'm sure in the future we're going to see something like this. I would expect that it would happen. But for right now, you're going to have to piecemeal everything together, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because you can learn how it's building. Another thing that you're going to find with Oxygen is the builder loads pretty slowly. I have some hopes that in the next version of Oxygen, in version 4.0, that they're going to take and rewrite all of this. I think that this is going to be rebuilt using a better framework, and that's probably going to, make things just much, much better in the long run. You're also going to notice right off the bat that Oxygen just has way more in terms of your styles. There's basically almost nothing. Anything that you click on in Oxygen, you can basically edit in some way, shape, or form. Whether that's animations, whether that's icons, whether that's the image, the text, or anything like that. That's something that's still primarily missing from Bricks, and something that they just haven't gotten to yet because they are so brand new. There's times where you'll click on something, and when you go to click on it, you'll notice very quickly, oh, I don't have the ability. Like there's headers where you can't go in with the header, and if you choose typography, you can't choose certain decorations on certain headers. They don't have all of these in here. Oxygen has a lot of that, which makes it more desirable in terms of somebody who's more used to a full development standpoint. That doesn't mean that they're not going to have it, like I've said so many times in this video. That just means that they just haven't hit it yet. So that's something that differs a little bit between these two. And I should note that for anybody who's been using Bricks, the guy behind it, Thomas, has been very, very open and vocal, and he's been doing a really good job with the roadmap and everything, and listening to everybody's concerns about, how thick the code is, and how it performs and everything like that. So that's really a good sign. Oxygen does a little bit of the same thing, but for the most part, they kind of just come out with what they think they should come out with, which is fine. I mean, there's definitely some feedback from the community, and they do listen to the community. But if you're looking for a builder which listens to the community a little more, I would say Bricks does that better than almost any other builder. Brizzy kind of listens to the community a good bit too, but I think that they follow their own kind of guidelines for when they're going to implement something. And so they're not always listening to the community like the same way that Bricks is. Bricks is actually coming out, I think, because the community's so small. And they're basically saying, hey, if you want something, you make sure that it's on this, like, you vote for it on this roadmap, which is this idea board and roadmap, which you can see there's voted for ideas and things that are on here to specifically customize, and they tell you what's planned, what's next, and what's in progress. I really like the way they do this. I wish Oxygen would implement something like this. For the most part, all we get with Oxygen is if you're someone who's brand new, for the most part, you get this kind of stuff where they go in and they kind of tell you overviews of what's coming or what they've done or what tweaks they have or anything like that, which is neat. I don't mind this. I think that this is fine, that this is good the way they do, the way they talk about a lot of this stuff and the way that they go about what they're doing in the change logs. I don't mind this. It would just be neat to see what they had coming up. And I think that this is really cool how he implemented like a idea board where people can put ideas and then people can vote on them. And then obviously you've got your change log and everything. I think that's one thing that really separates Bricks from other builders. But anyway, back to Oxygen. So Oxygen is a very established builder. And that's one thing that it has going for it that Bricks just cannot compete with right now at this very time. Oxygen is just, it has way more features. It has way more in terms of what it can do with what you can do with it. There's a lot in here that you can just drop, especially since they started adding these dynamic elements, such as flip boxes or anything like that. Once they started adding these, it makes it a lot easier to take and customize this. And most of this is very basic stuff. It's just stuff that basically Oxygen wanted to create for the sheer purpose of trying to bring everybody up to speed with certain elements and showing them how they could do it. Because I think there were a lot of people who were confused. And so if we drop in a section here and we pick something like one of these elements, I'll quickly show you. You can see, like, so for instance, a review box. You can see when we drop this element in here that really all this is an image, some text, some more text, some icons, and some rich text down here. This is all the review box is. But the cool thing is that they've done it for you. So the idea behind it is if you wanted to take and you wanted to go in here and kind of change this up, you could. If you wanted to set in, columns in here or something like that, you could go in and do that. It's nice that they've kind of put this sort of thing together. Now, on the opposite end of the spectrum, if we go and we actually look at Bricks as a whole, Bricks does have the ability somewhere in here. I should just jump in. I tell you what, let me jump into Bricks real quick and I will show you what I'm talking about. Hold on. So I thought I was going to actually open Bricks, but actually after looking at this, I do have Bricks open. I realized very quickly that you can create your own elements, but you have to do it with their child theme, which you can download from the account. It includes a simple custom element for demonstration purposes, and you can create your own elements for Bricks. It follows a pattern similar to how to create a WordPress widget, and it basically allows you to go in and create these elements. So one of the beauties of Bricks is in some ways, while Oxygen has this type of stuff where you can take and you can go in and you can do that, you now have the ability to kind of create your own elements in Bricks. And that's something that's unique to Bricks. There are some other builders that may allow developers to specifically kind of come in and do this, but Bricks is one of the first ones I know that if you want to custom build some elements, maybe there's something that's missing or you want to copy some code, he's kind of walking you through how to go through and build these functions. And you can load and register your element and do all of this. And once you do that, that's it. Your element is inside of your your bricks file. And that's unique in its own right, because with these blank element classes and everything, that's something that Oxygen doesn't allow you to do. Right now, they're charging you for these. Even though these are basic elements and they do save on time, Bricks allows you to create your own. Oxygen charges you for them. Granted, Oxygens are meant to speed up time and all of that. It's definitely a plus when you see this type of thing happening, and when they've got the ability to take and do it. It just gives you more capabilities overall with what you can do with the builder. So moving on from here, let's keep talking about the differences between these two. A lot of people have been arguing specifically about Oxygen's header. I've known that I've seen that a couple of times. Bricks had an issue right off the back when it first came out. Let me go to the home page where Bricks actually did things with as a matter of fact, let me go to the builder itself. So this is an old version of Bricks, but I will show you what I'm talking about here. So Bricks divides everything up into sections in containers, and that's something that it's rather a pain in the butt, because a lot of people don't like the layout and the structure of this. Now the good thing is this is being fixed in the latest version of Bricks, because rather than having a section and then a row and then a column and then, you know, your elements inside, they are going to have containers. And the container class will allow you to put whatever in it that you want. It's going to come with Flexbox and a lot of other things that, you know, people have been looking for. When this happens, it's going to get a lot more competitive with Oxygen in terms of the layout factor, only because you know, they're taking away that whole entire section. It was bloated a little bit more than it should have been when it first came out, and they've kind of adjusted for that. And once again, I mean, I like that fact that they knew it was a problem, and they're immediately jumping on it and they're trying to fix it. So that's one thing I definitely like about the fact that Bricks is doing this, is that they've noticed very quickly, hey, we need to, you know, get rid of this bloated structure panel and get with something more simple that is maybe just a straight container. And then I could throw one container in here. I could center it with using Flex and just have maybe a container and just a, you know, a div that's in here that I could put this centered in there, or just have these elements divided straight into the middle. That's another thing you can do. It just cleans up the code a lot more, makes it look a lot better. But needless to say, it's getting worked on. You know, that's something that they're definitely trying to improve. Oxygen, on the other hand, if we go back to the Oxygen page, you'll notice that they've just updated features. And one of the features they've updated is having CSS grid. And they're also giving you, you know, they're talking about what you can do with CSS grid and creating impossible layouts. In terms of both of these builders, I really give both of them a hand, and I'm really, really happy with both of them, because they're allowing more custom layouts than you could find with Elementor, Divi, and some of the other builders that are out there. And I'm very impressed with this. I think that they both win at this game. You know, they're both a step ahead of the curve that some others are just not there yet, where you don't have this in other builders. You don't have CSS grid, you don't have Flexbox in all the builders. And that's a big deal. And I'm really, really happy with both of them when it comes down to the whole layout scenario, because for me, especially when the newest version of Bricks comes out, you're going to be able to create impossible layouts like this, where you could not normally do that in some of the other builders that are out on the market. Like I've said, specifically, you know, Elementor you can do some cool stuff with, but I don't think it's as flexible as this. You don't have CSS grid, and you don't have, you know, some of those things. So, you know, on that place, they both fare pretty even, I feel like. I especially think that with the way Thomas is developing it, we're going to see more stuff come out for Bricks that's going to make it a lot better in the future. But another big difference between Oxygen and Bricks that a lot of different people have pointed out has been that Oxygen is very, very code heavy, meaning if you want to do something, you're going to, for the most part, be looking at some kind of coding. So for instance, this is a custom class that they built into this. And while it's not hard to do the custom class because Oxygen has everything laid out here in terms of effects, transition, and all of that, you still have to understand the difference between classes, IDs, and how all that happens. Some people have mocked Bricks a little bit by saying that it's more of a WYSIWYG. It's more of a drag and drop interface where you literally just go in here and you drag and drop, and there you go, there's your heading. And so, Oxygen has that same thing. You could still drop a heading in here and you could do all of that. But when you're looking at the links and the way, this does a link. So for instance, let's look at something. Let me look at a button. If I have a button that's in here, let me see if I have one. So I think that this is, technically speaking, I think it's a button. Yes, it is. It's a button. So the difference between Bricks and Oxygen in terms of the button interface and everything is that while Oxygen expects you to understand classes and IDs and all that, Bricks really doesn't. Bricks has hover styles, and so with the hover styles, you can change how something looks by just clicking the hover style, and then on hover, that will do whatever that is. So for instance, if we wanted to add, if we wanted to add a border around here, and we wanted to give this a width of 1, and we wanted to change the color to red, then technically speaking, let me see if I even did that right, because I might not have done that right. Border, label border, radius style. Oh, style you want solid. And then that's linked. And then you do that, and I don't think you need a radius for it. Then you click off of hover, and on hover, this should, on the front end, I believe, it should turn red, but apparently I just selected this. So you can see it kind of turns red. It should have selected the whole thing, but I didn't. But you can see this turns red. So for instance, if you wanted to do hover styles, you can do it that way. With Oxygen, knowing IDs and classes is a little bit more important, especially understanding how the class function works because you are dealing with style sheets. Oxygen is more like coding from scratch. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to code from scratch. I want to remind everybody that, because a lot of people get it wrong. They say, "Oh, well, I can't design an Oxygen because I can't code." Well, you don't necessarily need to. I think people get frustrated because they're wondering how to create some of these effects, but most of what you can do in Oxygen you can find within this panel. It's just understanding how these panels work together that sometimes confuses people. But in the most part, you can take and you're not going to have to code. Now, there are some codes that they do with their specialty buttons. So for instance, the review box, the dashboard tabs, the dynamic slide, all of these things, they do have some coding in here. So for instance, if we were going to go pick this and let's add in what was I playing with earlier? It might be in the basics section. Nope. I was actually hover scrolling image. So if we add in a hover scroll image, so forget the fact that this is in the front because it's separated by negative margin. If we look at this div and we actually look at the structure pane, you'll see that in this div specifically, which is in probably the review section, what section is this? So main hero features, it's review. So it's in here. Here's the hover scrolling. So you'll see that they've added some code to it. And when you go in here and you look at the code, you can see there's a little bit of PHP, which it's a blank essentially. And then there's some coding in here. And it's just basically CSS. That's all it really is. It's just CSS that makes this scroll down. And there's some other things that they're doing with the image itself that they have. So they've got some background effects in here and stuff like that they're doing. So I'm pretty sure that's the background. So that's just this. But, and obviously they have an icon above it, and it's got its own effect that it does whenever it transitions off of the page or whatever. So this is pretty cool, but I mean, you could do the same exact thing in Bricks with CSS. That's all this really is. It's just a faster way to do it because they've created it for you. Like I said before, if you wanted to create this in bricks, you could definitely do it. You would just do it using this element itself and create your own element. Create your own element, and then boom, there you go. You've got your own element that you can bring in wherever you want to. So, does it require coding? Yes and no. If you want to achieve certain effects like this, then yeah, you're going to have to get some coding involved. It's good for you to know at least basic CSS for Oxygen. But for the most part, Oxygen, people make it out to be something that it's not, because for the most part, you do not need to know coding for Oxygen. It's a pretty straightforward process, and it works really easy. And once you get inside of it, you're going to run into problems, but trust in yourself. You will learn what you need to do, and you can ignore everything else that's going on in Oxygen for the most part, and just get through. And you can build a website like this fairly easily. I don't think that there's anything that you need to do inside of your website to do anything crazy. So, where does this all come down to? Where does everything fit? I mean, do you prefer Oxygen? Do you prefer bricks? This has been the biggest fight of all since this came out, is whether Oxygen or bricks is the better builder. And to be real honest with you, it's one of the choices that I don't think you can make right off the bat without first playing with it yourself, number one, and understanding that bricks is a brand new builder and Oxygen is a more established builder, and it's got a lot more of the things that you would probably be looking for as a builder. So with that said, I don't think that either one of them is outclassed. I don't think either one of them is a bad buy, and I don't think either one of them would hurt you in any way purchasing them. I like both of them. I think they both have their uses. I think I'm going to be interested to see what happens when Oxygen 4 comes out. At the same time, I'm going to be interested to see what happens when Bricks 2.0 comes out, because both of them will hit milestones that are achieving certain things. And really the question that is going to boil down in everybody's mind is, how long will it take Bricks to hit these milestones? Like, Bricks has a great running start from the very beginning with everything that it has, but it still doesn't have the WooCommerce builder. It doesn't have a lot of the stuff that Oxygen already has established. And so it's almost not fair to compare them. And for the most part, people are right about that. You can't compare something that's brand new and then say, okay, well, I expect it to be flawless from the very beginning. You just can't. But Bricks has a very, very good start ahead of it, and Oxygen just keeps getting better over time. About the only complaint that I've seen on the Oxygen forum is it's really been about the composite elements. And really, it's just that people were frustrated in having to pay for them, because there's a monthly fee for them if you're not willing to pay for the license, the yearly license. It's $29. But for the most part, these just speed up the workflow. That's all they're there for. I mean, you could do the same thing, like I said, in Bricks and create these yourself. They're just there to speed up the workflow. And so at the end of the day, you don't need to use these. And I mean, it's nice to have, but you don't necessarily need to use them. An important note is that Oxygen did give all of these to anybody who's had a yearly license, a lifetime license. And I think that that's really cool. Oxygen's done a good job of making sure that they incorporate their old-time users who have supported them from the beginning. And I think that that is a really, really strong stance. And I've been really, really happy with the way that they've done that, because Oxygen could have came out and said, you know what, we're going to make these pre-built elements, and if you want them, you're just going to have to buy them. And I'm sure most people would have probably purchased them if they needed them. I don't think anybody would have said, oh, no, I don't want them, or whatever the case is. I think they would have probably purchased them. It's just one of those things that it's a nice to have when Oxygen goes through and just adds them to people who have this lifetime deal. So I hope this video didn't disappoint you. I know that we didn't go over every little thing that separates these two together. Once again, it's one of those questions where you have to sit down and you have to think of it for yourself. If you are using somebody who is maybe, let's say, brand new, or you have a client that is just wanting a basic website, I think that Bricks is fine for that. I've built some basic Bricks stuff and I like it. I don't have any issues with it, and it is fast. It is very fast to build with. It is not a hard builder to grasp and learn and do anything with. Same being said, Oxygen, once you get rolling in it and you start playing with it, the people who are really good with it know for a fact that you can build whatever you want to with Oxygen, and there's really no limitation as long as you're willing to learn. So that's being the key between them. If you're somebody who's maybe a little bit shy on learning something, you could start with Bricks. I think Bricks would be a fine addition to anybody's library. It's really fast. It works really well. I've been really happy with it. But if you're somebody who wants to be more of a developer and tinker in the back end, then I think Oxygen's still probably the primary pick for you. Up until Bricks starts coming out with some more features that hits all of their elements that we're not seeing just yet with some of their elements. And that's just my personal take. You don't have to take and listen to me. Obviously, you can do your own thing. But when we're going over here and we're looking at what kind of things I would like to see in Bricks, I'd like to see more options, especially for the already existing headlines and stuff like that, and that'll make it a lot more competitive with Oxygen and some of the other builders. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I'll post links down below for anything you want to see. If you want to see this sliced up build with Bricks, I'm going to take and post that up down below also. And I will see you guys next time.